First thing we should talk about is All-Star Western.
Yes.
So I was very excited that Jonah Hex wasn't going anywhere. It's one of my favorites. Fantastic comic.
Not as excited as I was that it wasn't going to get. Well, we were like, 70 is the last issue. When you get that call, issue 70 is the last issue, you're like, what? And you start crying and stuff like that. But and then they came back, but you're going to have All-Star Western, and actually their idea, I wish I could take credit, Justin take credit for it, but their idea is saying, we'd like to incorporate Gotham in it. And we're like, oh, okay. And I said, how much?
That's a city, right?
Yeah, and I said, how much can we incorporate that? And they're like, no, the history of Gotham. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Because we've, actually stayed away from doing any of that during the series. Actually, we pitched one thing one time, and they said, nah, we'd rather you not go there. But now it's like, go there.
Into the continuity?
Go into the continuity that was set up, because a lot of writers hit Gotham back before the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And so we got to not only do that, but, when they gave us Moritat, as an artist, we're like, okay, now we can go a little crazy and make Gotham a character in the book, So...
you brought Jonah Hex to a nice close, but sort of left it open. And you already knew about the other book, obviously. So was it sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, the last two issues were like love letters to the people that stuck with us for 70 issues.
Yeah.
And, when we knew we had Jeff Lemire, we were like, okay, well, write something to Jeff's sensibilities. And at the same time, we wanted some closure with Jonah and his dad, because we knew... Maybe in a new series we wouldn't get to be able to deal with that, and yes, and it's like a lot of people thought we had father issues by the way we wrote that book.
I was like,
but again, we're writing Jonah, and it's how Jonah would deal with it, and Jeff just knocked it out of the park. And then when we had Ryan Sook for the last issue, we were like, Justin and I were talking like, how are we going to wrap this up and yet not wrap it up? And we did our best David Lynch Jonah Hex issue, and it was one of those books where people kept reading it and reading different things into it, and that's what we wanted to do. You bring what you want to the book.
Bring your weird issues.
It definitely was one of those when you finish and you're like, oh man, you go back to the beginning.
Right.
And like, really.
That was our thing, because anybody who stuck with us for 70 issues, it was like a thank you to them, because we hit everything in the story. And anybody who never read Jonah and read the last issue probably thought they kind of maybe licked some acid before they bought the book. It was a little wild.
Yeah,
but
really
with All-Star Western, we knew, being part of the 52, we said, well, now we have this opportunity to, because Jonah hit the numbers weren't great. It was steady, but not great. The book did better in trade.
That's upsetting.
Well, it's a Western. It has a lot of things going against it. But with All-Star Western, we said, all right, maybe we'll get the Batman audience checking it out. And then because it's part of the 52, which was brilliantly planned, let's be honest, it was brilliant, okay? Man. And so since we're part of that, we're going to have one shot to get somebody to like this book. So they gave us the extra pages, which was a 28-page story. And then we said, all right, we have to treat the book like this is the first time you've ever read a Jonah Hex story. At the same time, we had to treat it, it's the first time you've ever dealt with Gotham, even though people have it in their head already what Gotham is. And then adding Amadeus Arkham, figuring out in captions who Jonah is was our way of saying, all right,
this is who
who it is, this is the world you're in, this is really screwed up, and here it is. And again, the first issue is a 3-part story, so which we never really did too much of in Hex. So we actually got to, instead of extending the story, we kind of said, well, let's just give more story.
Yeah.
And so we made it a very heavy book. Like 28, like I said, it's like 28 pages, but I've had more people that came to me this past weekend and just said, I've never read a Western comics. I cannot stand Westerns, but I picked up the book and I love it. And that's
where
like,
have they been though?
Look, honestly, if I had the bus fare, I'd go to everyone's house and shake them. But I can't do that. But at least, like I said, within 52, people were buying the books in a blanket suite. And awesome. I mean, how do you do that? And yet they did. And I think people try things they never tried for the first time. And it's sort of like the guy that grows up in a town and never leaves the town. It's hard to convince them there's someplace else, or you hard to tell them how cool Italy is or how wild New York City is. They're like, no, I got everything here in my town. And with the 52, it was like, okay, here's the world. Give it a shot. And again, I think it was a really great time for people to say, I tried all 52, and these are the ones I like. And so we got lucky to be included in that, and because it would have broken our heart to stop writing Jonah. But it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Because it is All-Star Western, we're going to see some other characters.
Yeah, actually, the second issue, we have a 2-part El Diablo story by Jordi Burnett.
Awesome.
Issue 3, 4, and 5, we have a 3-part story illustrated by Phil Winslate called oh God, because I'm tired from the Barbary Ghost, and it takes place San Francisco, 1880s, and it's about a Chinese immigrant family that deals with how horrible that city. The Barbary Coast was famous for its prostitution, crime. It was just the most horrible place in the world.
Perfect for Jonah.
Perfect for Jonah. Perfect for a Western story, and again another city-based Western story. But we pitched a brand new character, and she's like it's a revenge tale where she's getting revenge for her family, and it's her and her grandfather. And her grandfather is an explosives expert and fireworks and everything.
Nice.
So it's a young girl and her grandfather taking out the Chinese mob.
Nice.
And we had a lot of trouble with the name. We coming up with the name because it was, and we said, well, and I kept telling Joe, well, it takes place in the Barbary Coast, and he goes, well, let's just call it the Barbary Ghost, and I'm like, yo,
You hear a title like that, you're like, oh,
yeah, so
cool.
he nailed it, and so we have that, and then we have every other one of the Western characters, even some we've had in the other series. Because we have the 8 extra pages in the back, we're going to have some fun, and then eventually some of them are going to switch to the front. We're going to mess with the format. Jonah's always there.
Awesome.
And we have something really cool for people who read the 70 issues coming in later on towards the end of the year that they're going to go, yes, yes, yes. So we have a lot of fun stuff, and again, it's our opportunity to try to get the people to stick with it. You know, every time you write a book, you're hoping to get a new person in, or at least keep the reader. And we've been doing that for 70 issues with Hex, and we're going to keep doing it with All-Star Western.
Awesome.